of your colleagues in the movie, and Lance Henriksen is just exceptional. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope he'll get all the awards that he deserves for it. Could you talk about how he related to this story? Because obviously he could really, he felt the story, I guess.
Lance liked it right away, but he was afraid of it right away because he'd never done something this challenging. And another reason, but I didn't find out till later on, when the movie fell apart, then I tried to make another one. And then when I tried again, I said, okay, Lance, 2 years later, I said, Lance, I'm going to try one more time. Are you still with me? And he said, yeah, okay. And I said, well, what was that long pause about? He said, well, I just was thinking about it. I guess a part of me was thinking, okay, I don't have to do that. But I know I have to because it's something, I know the quality of it, I like it, but it's a big challenge for me because I'm going to have to visit some places that I hadn't thought about in a long time, namely my childhood. And then he started telling me things about his childhood which were mostly terrible stories, but he was sometimes laughing about it, and like just crazy stories, Like he basically grew up on the streets and was tossed around from orphanage to orphanage, sometimes to schools. I mean, his father wasn't present. He was a merchant seaman, Norwegian merchant seaman, and he would come home and he would, he'd just get drunk the whole time, and his mother was always drunk, and boyfriends, and I mean, just the typical, like one story he told me about that he thought was very funny now, which didn't seem funny. He was like 5 years old, middle of winter in New York City, and his mom drunkenly comes up and shows him this piece of paper. This is your birth certificate. She puts it in his hand and says, so you always know who you are. And then she spun him around, pushed him out the door, and he was on the streets for 5 days, in the middle of winter. This is how he grew up. And stealing things, shining shoes, doing whatever. And then as he got older, he found he had to steal things to help his mother pay the rent. It was kind of like a Dickens story almost. And, what I didn't know, he told me, yeah, I didn't even know how to read until I was 30 years old. So he's a person that didn't finish school by any means and self-taught, and self-taught emotionally too, because at this point, you would think he would be angry and bitter about all this childhood, but he's not. And I said, how is that? And he goes, well, it took me years to find a way to accept all that. But I know I'm going to have to go back there emotionally to do this honestly, correctly, and portray this man, which he did. And I think it's an incredibly brave, layered, disturbing performance, but very courageous. And maybe his acceptance of the past in some way helped him go in there bravely, but I agree it's a remarkable performance. And I knew he would do something special, but it was better than I had ever dreamed of what he had managed to do. And he's always been an actor that has a riveting presence and always he's told me lots of stories. We've known each other now for a few years as we worked on this, prepared it, shot it, and everything. And we stay in touch, we talk. He was not tech savvy, but because we've done some interviews together, I had to show him, we got him a new computer. My son took it to him during the lockdown, because they're both in California. He lives out in the middle of the desert in a house that's surrounded, there's lots of crows and ravens, which he feeds. So it's like, they wake him up in the morning, it's around 4 or 5 in the morning, he's lying in bed and he hears, ah! And I go by and he's like, oh, time for breakfast. So these are his friends. So my son went out there, drove all the way out to his house and took a computer and showed him how to do Skype and Zoom. And so we've done some interviews, and now that he knows how to do it, he doesn't think about that I'm 9 hours ahead, it's like 3 in the morning. Ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, hi Lance, how you doing? What are you doing? I said, I'm sleeping. Oh, again? You're always sleeping. Yeah, because you always call me 3 or 4 in the night. No, not always. Sometimes he calls me at 10 at night. But he loves this new toy, so. But he's somebody who always had a presence, always had very serious, no matter how, I said, why do you do so many movies? You haven't even seen all of them. It was like 270-something movies. And he said, I like to work, and I like, even if it's just one moment that happens, a connection, or I learn something, and then it's worth the whole project, And he's told me lots of stories. One story that will give you an idea of how seriously he takes his work, always, and how much work he puts into it and thought. He was, how many of you seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg movie? A lot of you have seen that movie, right? It's where the aliens come down at the end, and Francois Truffaut is one of the characters. He's a scientist. And anyway, Lance was playing this sort of Secret Service, FBI type spy guy who was his bodyguard, his escort, the Truffaut character. And he was on this shoot for months. He didn't have many lines. He was just this presence, this sort of intimidating security guard guy, CIA guy or something. And they were doing this famous sequence where all the aliens have landed, and it's like this famous musical thing, dun, 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 or whatever it is. And it's this code that they have for when these creatures came down, all these little alien people. And then there's this glorious moment where they all get on the spaceship and they take off. And scientists and all the government people, scientists including Truffaut's character, is watching and very pleased, and they're all leaving, and it's glorious and beautiful. And Lance is watching this, you know, they're doing a shot of the aliens, and they're going to then shoot the shot of Truffaut and the others, and Lance as his bodyguard. And Lance has been thinking a lot about this character. He's totally thinking about it. And he goes over to Steven Spielberg, who's busy setting up this massive shot, and he says, "Steven, can I talk to you for a second?" He goes, "What? Can I ask you a question?" He goes, "Okay, make it quick." And he says, "Look, Steven, I was thinking about this. You know, a guy, my character, you know, like a secret service, like a government spy kind of guy. They're not going to just let all these guys leave, you know. And they all look the same. There's lots of them. It's dark. It's night. Why don't I could get like a black bag or something, you know, and quietly grab one or two, maybe two, because and then we could take them and do like an autopsy on one and can keep the other one to observation. They'll never miss them until they're like galaxies away. And you know, I mean, that's what a government guy would do. They would keep one of these guys and study them." And Steven just looks at me and goes, "Not that kind of movie, Lance." You know, and then he basically didn't talk to him anymore. But I did send this movie, Falling, to Steven Spielberg, knowing this story. I didn't mention anything. I said, "Would you like to see it?" Because I wanted to, during the lockdown, thinking there's not going to be any movie theater experiences. I thought, well, I want to learn something, because that's how you learn, by showing it to people like you and see what the feeling is, what people have to say. I learned how to do it maybe better next time, or just learn something about the movie that I didn't realize. And so during the lockdown, I sent it to some directors that I knew a little bit, just to get their feedback.